Can everybody see the slides? Yep, great, thank you. Well, welcome to the August Mobility and Access Coalition. We'll go ahead and get started today. We do have a pretty full agenda. So just a reminder that when you registered, you should have gotten also a one-tap number to call in to the meeting. So if you lose internet connection, you can call in using that. And it should be good. You won't be able to see any of the presentations if we have any slides going, but you'll be able to contribute. Just a couple of housekeeping features with Zoom. I know that we're all probably pros at this, but just a reminder, in the bottom left-hand corner, sorry about that, on the bottom left-hand corner, there's the mute and unmute. We ask if you're not speaking, please keep yourself muted. And if you want to speak, just unmute yourself and go ahead and speak. The video is just to the right of that, and you can stop your video or start it. Video does help with communication. So if you feel comfortable turning it on, please do so when you're speaking. You can see the other participants in the group by clicking on the participant link, and you can see the how they registered for this meeting, their first and last name usually. We have a chat function here. Please enter your name and your organization in the chat. That helps us with the meeting minutes. Additionally, this meeting is being recorded to help us with meeting minutes. And we will go ahead and move forward. Just a reminder, we meet on the second Monday of the month from 2 to 3:45. And really the intent is to promote equitable transportation options. We do a lot of presentations, networking, capacity building, and then also project updates for transportation. Why do we meet? We really focus on transportation as being a social determinant of health with equity right at the center. Transportation is really one of those linchpin services that helps people access all other aspects of their life. And it's really something that people don't think about unless their transportation network is really broken and they don't have transportation access. So we try to foster multimodal transportation access, and that means options, transportation options, so that people can be safe and thriving with their transportation choices, and they don't have to be dependent on just one mode of transportation. We have a pretty full agenda today, a lot of updates, and then a few presentations. And we'll go ahead and start with that. So the first one is an update on the transportation sales tax, an update from the Veterans Community Project, a review of the Access-A-Ride Lunch and Learn, an update on Lions Flyer, the Zero Fare for Better Air update, the peak-to-peak transportation survey, an upcoming lunch and learn that we have on disability etiquette, a note on the Mobility and Access Coalition, or Mobility and Access for All Ages and Abilities plan, and then any other updates that we may have forgotten. Additionally, we're going to hear from the RTD Transit Police, and they're going to talk to us a little bit about the policies around ADA, RTD security measures, and then a little bit probably on better air for, Zero Fare for Better Air. Then we're going to have a DRCOG presentation on the Human Services Transportation Set Aside, and we'll briefly talk about the outreach inventory that we've been conducting and the lunch and learn schedule. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Lochimin, and I will go ahead and pull up that slideshow for you.
Buenas tardes and good afternoon, everybody. And Angel, thanks as always for your support there in the background on our virtual meetings. This is one of my favorite meetings, just as far as getting to hear, getting to learn. And I love the short sessions we do at the beginning because I've got an opportunity to actually get to know some of the members, which has just been a really great way for me to learn and spread the information that you all share every time we meet. So thank you for that. So really quickly, because it's a huge meeting and we've got about 5 minutes, I'm going to try and keep to that and keep a minute maybe for a question as well. Would encourage folks to look at bouldercounty.org. You can look under ballot measures, Boulder County, to look at all 3 ballot measures that were passed last week. Right now, I'm just going to talk about one that's specific to the transportation sales tax. And so appreciate you all just listening in. And we're one of my asks today as an elected, because as some of you might be familiar with what becomes campaigns after August 4th, this really is now a campaign. And so as electeds, we can ask for your support. And so that's what I'm here to do today. You can go to the next slide, please. And if there's a way for me to do that, let me know. So here's the big question, why? Why is funding needed? And so I want to just clarify a couple different pieces. What we're asking on this ballot measure for voters to decide is, should we continue a 0.1% tax that is a current tax? So it's not a new tax. And the change would be that we would continue the same amount, but put it on the ballot this year to be in perpetuity instead of doing a 15 or 20-year sunset period. So why now? Because this tax is going to sunset in 2024. It will allow us to implement the recommendations that a lot of folks on this call, your teams, maybe other folks that you work with in this space around transportation and specifically mobility projects. It will allow us to get that work done together. There's a 15-year plan, and we can certainly provide that link to that PDF if folks are interested in, where is the project that I was working on, or I looked at, or I gave input on, where did that fall in that list? But that's the 2020 Boulder County Transportation Master Plan that's mentioned on here. So why is the funding needing? For that reason. I already talked about the sunset. Here's the other really exciting piece of this continuation of the transportation tax, is that we can continue to leverage funding. We're in a spot right now from a national level to receive funding that we haven't seen previously, that is really key to ensuring that we have some of the baseline funding so that we can go out and our transportation department, Angel, her team, and others can continue to leverage funds to bring in the projects that you all have asked us to work on all around Boulder County. So what happens if we don't? And this is really important and was a really great learning for me as well. The basic, the baseline funding is just not enough. It would pull us back to only be able to do basic maintenance. And I want to just talk about, we'll see here in a slide, but that's really what happens if we don't, and what happens if voters don't move forward on this particular ballot measure around transportation. And you can read the rest of there on the slide. I won't read line by line. We can go to the next slide just for time's sake. So just to make sure folks are aware, and this is also on the county's website, to me, it's a great learning to see where folks who responded to the poll, and we know that that's not all 330,000 residents, but the folks who did take the time to respond to that telephone poll with Bob Drake earlier this year, one of the biggest responses as far as a percentage was in regards to this current transportation sales tax at the 0.1%. We did ask, what would voters do? How would they respond to a 0.2, for example, or 0.15? And overwhelmingly, folks were stated that they would continue this tax with an extension at the same amount. And so we informed and we asked staff to give us some input around what they're hearing about different conversations. They've gone out and done presentations for several months just to get input from our different partners around the region, including municipalities and other electeds. And so that's where the recommendation came from in regards to priorities from, again, that TMP, which is our Transportation Master Plan, and then the same community and other community input. So what will this funding accomplish? Thank you for that. These are the buckets. So if you see it in a different chart, or you get on the website and take a look at the graphs, et cetera, those are the charts, that safety and resilience, the different numbers, the transit service that I know a lot of you have been really critical to that, to these different services, mobility programs, which is an addition with this new, the way that the ballot measure is written now, regional trailways and bikeways and regional corridors. I just want to be clear, because this question came up at a presentation I did on Friday, that the safety and resilience is really the different safety improvements. It's a lot of the different road piece, anyone who's in Sugarloaf, those are pieces that is just stability, improvement, and making sure that our roads are working. So I just want to clarify kind of where that piece fits in, just based on questions that I've already received. Go ahead. And then here's the key takeaways, and I won't read the whole piece, but for folks who, we need your help. We need your help to support the work that you're all doing to really be able to implement the input that you've given us around the different multimodal transportation improvements, the master plan. And so to help educate folks, we're talking about a continuation of a sales and use tax that already exists right now that Boulder County voters previously said yes on. So we're just extending it at the same amount now in perpetuity. It will allow us, again, to extend outside of 2024 to do a lot of the great work that we're in partnership with you all on. It's an opportunity for us to add in that mobility projects, which includes education. It includes some of the newer programs of getting up the hill and into the mountains, to Lions, to Gold Hill, et cetera. And it will allow us ongoing opportunities to inform the list of the projects, because the other piece is we have a 15-year plan right now, but we'll continue to do very similar community outreach and input sessions so that we can create a plan after that as well. So that's the quick version of summary in regards to this particular ballot measure on transportation that you will see in November. If anybody's interested in working on it, here's the QR code, and appreciate Kathleen Brackey and her team and Angel, of course, for putting this all together and getting us ready today to just present the information. So happy to take any brief questions that anyone might have.
Does anybody have any questions for Martha? I know that many of you were at the public hearing and gave your input on it. So I know that you're pretty familiar with it, because this is like the second or third presentation that we've had on it.
Thanks for that, Angel. And I think the key is that this just got approved by the Board of County Commissioners on Thursday afternoon. Some of you may have seen the press releases, but just as important is how can we spread that information to address any misconceptions or misperceptions that folks might have. And the big one is this is not a new tax.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. And I know that not everybody's going to be as plugged in as you all, but thank you for following the issue a little bit more closely than the general public. And thank you, Commissioner Loachman, for your update on this.
Thanks for the time.
Yeah, thank you. Next on our agenda, we have the Veterans Community Project. So Ash is here today to talk about a couple of updates that they might have. Let me go ahead and share it one more time. I don't know, did you have any slides or anything that you need, Ash, or are you just gonna?
Nope, just gonna check in real
Great.
quick.
Well, I will turn it over to you, Ash.
Thank you, Angel. I'm Ash Wallace. I'm the Director of Veteran Support Services here at Veterans Community Project in Longmont. And for those of you who weren't aware, we were awarded a grant for rural outreach, and we were able to get a van that we refit to be ADA compliant, and we'll be going up into the mountains and out into the plains to try to serve veterans who are a little bit further away from the resources that they need to get connected to. So we're definitely going to be going up to NED, to the resource fair, every month. And we're hoping further on down the line that we'll be able to provide some sort of transportation for veterans who maybe don't qualify for Cultivate or other transportation options, and to try to get them to their VA appointments or to any other local resources that they'll need. We probably won't be able to start that right out the gate. We're having a lot of shifting going on here. We're hiring on 2 new case managers, and we just launched this program 1 August. So we're still in the baby stages of kind of getting our feet wet on this. But in the future, we really want to be working with you all to see like what the needs are, especially for veterans in the mountains and in other areas of Boulder County that they may not have access to the bus as easily, and how we might be able to assist with that in the future.
Great, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Ash on the Veterans Community Project in Longmont? Okay, great. Well, thank you very much, Ash. And next on our agenda, we're going to have Chloe talking about the Lunch and Learn that we had last month. Let me go ahead and share that. Okay, Chloe, I'll turn it over to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Angel. Hi, everyone. I think all of you know me by now, but my name is Chloe Grant and I work with Mobility for All. I'm a community outreach and engagement specialist. And a couple of weeks ago, we partnered with RTD with Gretchen Wiedergaard to host an Access-a-Ride Lunch and Learn. So that's where we talked all about Access-a-Ride, how you sign up for Access-a-Ride, the different limits of where you can ride Access-a-Ride and who can qualify for Access-a-Ride. We have a link to that. It is in the PowerPoint, but I'll put that in the chat as well so you can all click on it. It's a recording of the Lunch and Learn, and it's a great way to learn a little bit more about Access-a-Ride. We encourage you to watch it and learn how to sign your clients up for Access-a-Ride, and also share it to anyone who you think would benefit from signing up for the service or learning how to sign up for the service. So I'll put that in the chat, and we'll also be talking a little bit more about more options for Lunch and Learns in the future at the end of this meeting.
Great, thank you so much. And it really was a great Lunch and Learn. I watched it after I got back from vacation. Yeah, I learned a lot. So thank you very much. Next, we have an update on the Lions Flyer service. So I'm going to pull up a separate slide on that. So many of you may be aware that we did a soft launch of the Lions Flyer service. I believe it was 2 months ago, a month and a half, 2 months ago. And so Alex Hyde-Wright, he is the person who oversees that program. And I mean, I've heard that it's going pretty well as far as the services it's catching on and people are requesting a new stop location, I guess. Can you all see the Lions Flyer presentation? Okay, wonderful. Okay, so I will do my best to channel my inner Alex Hyde-Wright. So we do have these lovely new Boulder County Transit signs that will mark any of the bus stops where the Lions Flyer stops. So you'll notice those are new throughout the county along the Lions route. So we launched June 27th, and it's been really popular. It's mostly focused on commuting for school or for work. So what that means is that we have 3 routes in the three runs in the morning and 3 runs in the evening. So the runs in the morning go towards Boulder, and the runs in the evening go towards are geared towards going to Lions. We did put out a competitive process for the flyer, and Via Mobility Services is the operator of that service. So, we have 2 southbound trips in the morning and 1 northbound, so I was mistaken on that. So 2 are oriented towards commuting to Boulder and 1 is oriented towards commuting to Lions. And then in the afternoon, it's the reverse. So 2 are oriented towards commuting to Lions and 1 to Boulder. It's a Monday through Friday service, and it is considered to be a commuter route. So there's no associated Access-a-Ride or paratransit service. It does stop downtown Lions and goes to CU Boulder. And it's a 35-minute time end to end. So if you start and board in Lions and go to CU, that'll take you about 35 minutes. So far, this is our ridership that we have. So it's steadily growing over as people get awareness about it. And then also it fills in the gaps because we used to have the Y service that would go to Lions, and it is operated, or it's funded partially by RTD because they cut the Y service, and so they had provided Boulder County some funding for it. And then we're also using some of that local sales tax funding that Commissioner Loachman was talking about to use as local match. There still is the taxi voucher program. So the taxi voucher program was instituted when RTD had cut the service during COVID, the Y service, and it is $45. People who need a taxi can get a $45 voucher to go to Boulder in midday. They can't use the vouchers in the peak hours, the mornings or the evenings when the fixed route's running now, because that service is available, but they can use it to go to Longmont at any time of the day. And what that is that's $45 each way. So it does, anything above and beyond that, the person who uses the voucher has to pay for that. So the way that we've been doing that is this town of Lions is administering the voucher program to augment that service. So if anybody needs a voucher or knows of anybody who needs a voucher to get to Longmont or Boulder, they can contact Ramsey, L. Ramsey, and I'll put that in the chat after I get out of this presentation. And yes, they do have bike racks. I see that Lauren asked about bike racks. I believe it just has 2, it can just hold 2 bikes, but I'll double check on that and follow up with you after the fact. Yeah, Zoe says it does. Do you remember if it has 2 bikes? Can it just hold 2 bikes, Zoe, or can it hold more? I don't know if you're able to unmute yourself. I think that one of the services that VIA operates for us has a 3 bike rack, but I'm not sure if this one does too. So that was the end of the presentation. Do you have any questions on the Lions flyer? No. I will go ahead and put in the chat the email address to request a voucher if somebody needs a Lions taxi voucher. There we go. And next, I'm going to go ahead and go to Zero Fare for Better Air. I didn't really reach out to anybody specifically to provide this update, but I just wanted to have it be a check-in to see how everybody's doing. I know some of you have received requests from Boulder County to share our social media posts. I see that Brandon's on the call, so I don't know if you want to speak to how it's been going from RTD's perspective.
Hi, everybody. I don't know where, oh, there's my face. Yeah, I don't have any update to provide. Just please continue to spread the word about the Zero Fare initiative. And if you're hearing people have concerns about certain things, try to offer them solutions. So if someone says that they missed their bus or their bus didn't come, refer them to the website to enroll in service alerts or tell them to check the Next Ride app. Or if someone says that they don't feel safe, again, refer them to the Transit Watch app. We're trying really hard to provide people with the tools necessary to have a successful trip before they end up having a problem. So thank you.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Brandon. And I don't know, Elaine, or I'm not sure if anybody's here for Commuting Solutions. How's your promotional effort for this going?
Yeah, we've definitely been doing a lot of promotion with BTC, and I did have a quick contact with Natalie last week. I had been on the bus and thought, well, this is odd. If anything, there were actually fewer people, but right now we're during vacation time. So I think it's, off to a little bit of a slow start, but, it's a great campaign and opportunity. And I think the RTD folks have been letting us know they're also taking this opportunity to upgrade fare collection systems. So the fare capping technology that's coming up, I find pretty exciting. And, I actually just got off the phone with a business who was really excited by that opportunity because, it's there are advantages and disadvantages, say if somebody signs up for an EcoPass right now. So the mobile ticketing is going to be a even more robust technology for them going forward. So it's a great way to nudge people towards that. But it's also, I'm finding a great opportunity to help people get out and try transit right now and, remind yourself it's a great option. Because I'm a transit dependent person if I'm not riding my bike now. So, I definitely use it a lot. And also really support, I think we've all been talking about, using those apps like Brandon just said to help know where your bus is. It really makes a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah, great. Yeah, I've definitely been taking advantage of it and just been spreading the word. So if you are sharing anything on social media, I believe the hashtag #ZeroFare is what RTD's been using. And just in general, you may have a couple more requests to just share some of the social media posts that we have going on. But does anybody else have any comments or questions on #ZeroFare before we move on?
This is Julie from Sister Carmen. And we've been sharing it on social media, and I'm also a board member of Commuting Solutions. So I rode the bus to my board meeting from Lafayette to Louisville, and I still arrived late, not because of any RTD issues. The schedule was right on time, but apparently I don't know how to use the walking navigation.
Yeah.
So
We have an app class for that, Julie, if you want.
okay, I need to take that.
Yes, we can definitely teach you how to use Google Maps for learning how to like do multimodal trips, or even using the transit app as well. Yeah, it is definitely like something that you have to get in the habit of doing and kind of figure out. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll just mention that I will ride it tomorrow down to Denver's Union Station. It's kind of a media and photo op with some elected officials. So we're excited to ride the bus together, and we're going to go from Boulder to Union Station and back.
oh, wonderful. Great.
Mhm.
Okay. Any other comments before we move on? Okay. I've been seeing some fun some fun photos online, so definitely watch social media for those Zero Fare for Better Air updates. The next update we have is the Peak to Peak Transportation Survey. I don't see Katrina on the call, but the new on-demand service that we're trying to launch in the Mountain Region with VIA Mobility Services and the Peak to Peak Housing and Human Services Alliance, we are trying to get a survey to find out exactly how to prioritize the scheduled trips. So the new service is going to be a combination of scheduled trips and on demand on certain days of the week. And right now we are working on the driver issue. The driver that we had recruited, that VIA had recruited and trained, had a medical condition and they weren't able to drive anymore. So if you are interested in taking part in this planning effort, the Mountain Mobility Working Group meets the third Thursday of the month at 10 a.m. So just reach out to me and I can add you to the distribution list. But I will share in the chat the survey. So if you know of anybody who's in the mountains, in particular older adults, people with disabilities, low-income households, please encourage them to take the survey so that we know how to prioritize the routes and where we're going to stop. So I will put this in the chat here. There we go.
Hi, this is Anna from EFA.
Hi, Anna.
How are you?
Good.
We can probably text this to our mountain participants. Would you email me the link, and we can probably text it to the people that we have their addresses in the mountain? Would that help?
Yeah, that would be wonderful. Thank you, Anna. And I forget, your email is just anna@efa.org. Is that what it is?
Yeah, and Anna
Okay.
with one N.
Yeah, okay, wonderful. Yeah, I will definitely send that to you via email. Anybody else have any creative ideas on how to get the survey out? I think last we were looking at, in particular, Allen's Park area, like wanting to, I think that they were underrepresented in the surveys that we've had so far.
What about the VBSD, like the
Yeah.
schools up in the mountains?
We can try. I think that the schools, in particular, like BVSD, is challenging to get third-party information out to their families because so many people want to use them as a way to get information out. But I'll definitely check with, there's Cami. Cami, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, they have some kind of, well, not newer platforms, but I think there's some platforms that we can do. So I'll help you with that part.
Wonderful. Okay, so we'll definitely try to, through our youth transportation program, try to get it out to the families in the mountains as well. Wonderful.
Hi, this is Joni at the Hour Center. A couple weeks ago, I dropped off 50 surveys at two different locations in Allen's Park with envelopes and messages that I'm coming back Saturday, the 13th, which is this coming Saturday, to pick those up, and I'm going to drive them over to the Netherlands Food Pantry. And
Wonderful.
Katrina knows this. So
Yeah,
it's been arranged. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Joni. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, I didn't see you on the call. So Joni's also been taking part in the Mountain Mobility Working Group as well and been a huge asset. And then I see in the chat that Commissioner Luchinen said that they can share it at the Netherlands Commissioners Town Hall that they have. So that would be great. Let me know if you need any other information besides just the link. Okay, any other comments or questions on the peak-to-peak transportation survey? Okay, great, moving on. So this is just going to be a brief update. On September 9th, we do have a lunch and learn scheduled with the Administration for Community Living. In particular, we're going to have a disability etiquette training. So in general, they have some great techniques on how people with disabilities can advocate for themselves. I think that this came up as a solution, or one of the solutions to an issue of sometimes people with disabilities are perceived, they're not perceived as having a disability. So how can people advocate for themselves and let people know when they're interacting with them that they do have a disability? So more information to follow on that. We'll definitely include information in the September newsletter on how to register for that. So this is also a brief update. This is just kind of a celebratory. You all have been involved in the Mobility and Access for All Ages and Abilities planning process for the last 1.5 years, even 2 years leading up to the RFP. So the commissioners finally adopted the plan and it's finalized. So big round of applause to everybody who participated. And Cammie's on the call. Thank you so much. This was the first time that the Youth Transportation Program and Mobility for All worked together on a project at this scale. So at this point, we are scheduling kind of our speaking tour. Cammie and I are going out to the local municipalities to kind of raise awareness of this planning process and the results. So as you all know, this is really a community plan that is meant to inspire other organizations to adopt some of the strategies to improve transportation access. So we'll be going out. We've already given one presentation to the Longmont Transportation Advisory Board, and we're scheduled for a few more coming up here this next month. After we do our municipal speaking tour, we'll go out to our different coalitions and really try to make sure that there's awareness with all of the members on those coalitions. So for example, I've reached out to Rebecca with the IDD mill levy, and then also Lindsay with the Aging Advisory Council. So expect some requests to speak to your boards and your commissions and your just community coalitions. If you have any ideas on where we should be presenting the results, please just reach out to Cammie and me, and we'll be able to get it on the schedule coming up. Do you have any questions or comments? Cammie, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, just again, I just want to thank everybody who took the time to read the drafts, give feedback, or show up at the public meetings, give feedback, share it with partners so they could give feedback. This really is only a result of all of the collective work that we all did. So it's exciting that it got to this point. So just thanks again to everyone for supporting the process over the last, what do we say, 18 months, we think we're at this point. So yeah. Good job to everyone.
Yeah, thank you. It's definitely, I'm definitely proud of the effort and proud of everything that you all did to help with this. Okay, well, moving on. Does anybody else have any other updates before we get into our presentations? Any other organizational updates that you want to get out before we move on? Okay. Oh, Diego, I see you. Would you like to unmute yourself?
Yeah, let's see. This might be a little bit off topic, and I can send you the Department of Energy funding opportunity, but there is a funding opportunity announcement coming from the Department of Energy. Projects are funded anywhere from $1 million to $3 million. A concept paper is due on the 25th of August. Typically, the concept paper is about 4 pages long, but Northern Colorado Clean Cities is gathering really just ideas for a program for electrification for underserved community members. That's the main focus of this Department of Energy funding grant. We would need probably just 2 or 3 paragraphs, and we can probably fill in the rest. But if of interest, we can send out a little bit more information about the Department of Energy grant that's out, and the specific topics that they're funding. They're funding anything from multifamily units to get charging stations to limited mobility to folks with limited mobility to get electric vehicles. So a lot of different ideas are on the table.
That's wonderful. I will, once you send that out, I will follow up with an email with our OSCR, so our Office of Sustainability, Climate Action and Resiliency, and then Boulder County Housing Authority. So Mobility for All, OSCR, and BCHA, we met to prepare a grant application for the Excel Partners in Energy. They have like an equitable car share application. And so I think that BCHA finally, they had applied for 6 different housing authority sites, but we'll definitely reach out to you because maybe there's some dual, maybe we could pursue different funding for different aspects of it.
That would be great. And I can send out an example of a concept paper that we're working with the city of Fort Collins, and you know, the sky's the limit again. So yeah, do send us any ideas, and very similar to the concept paper that we currently are looking at. So yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, that would be great. I think Leah Yancey from OSCR was kind of corralling all of us, and then BCHA finally submitted the application themselves. But I'll definitely start that conversation with you, Diego.
Excellent.
Thank you. And I see Lindsay in the chat had put some information about the community conversations. Do you want to speak to that at all, Lindsay, or are you good with just the chat?
Yes, I can. I am without child at the moment, so timing is good. Yeah, so I mentioned this at a previous meeting, but we have set the dates for our community conversations specifically for veterans, their dependents, spouses, survivors. We have 3 dates set now. We're probably going to put in 2 more in-person dates by request of the community, and we'll get that further information out soon. But we do have 3 dates scheduled now that you can find in the link that I placed in the chat. We will also be blasting more information about our Age Well plan, and specifically the aging side of our process, which includes a quantitative data poll known as the Community Assessment Survey for Older Adults, and then our community conversations, which are really specific to older adults, caregivers. We'll be doing some in the mountains. We'll be talking to long-term care residents. That's both assisted living and skilled nursing. We'll be doing several in Spanish. You know, we're just trying to hit all of the populations that we typically would, and even expand it further as we've done in these processes for the last few decades. So there'll be more information and a press release coming out about the aging and caregiving side later this week. But if you want that sent straight to your inbox, just let me know in the chat and I'll sign you up for our newsletter.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thanks.
Any other updates before we move on to Patrick? Oh, Kimmy.
Just real quick, I was just going to share.
You're muted again, Kim.
Thanks. Just wanted to follow Diego's lead and say that the Safe Routes to School grant funding for Colorado, it opens tomorrow, the application period. So I know I'll be talking to a lot of you about that so we can kind of coordinate our efforts. But if any of you are interested in that or want more information or want to let me know of a project you're interested in, please reach out and let me know. But we've been waiting that because of the increased funding that's potentially available this year. So exciting. Thanks.
That is exciting. And then also this is because they switched to every 2 years. So this is the first time in a couple of years that they've had the call for projects. So
correct. Yes.
Yeah, wonderful. That's great. We'll get lots of safe routes going.
And I'll put it in the chat. There we go.
Great. Thanks, Kimmy. Any other updates before we move on to Patrick? Okay. Great. Well, I'm going to go ahead and move on. So I had the wonderful opportunity to speak to Patrick over the phone. I forget why we got connected. Maybe somebody was asking about security at park and rides or something, but Patrick just has so much great energy and ideas about RTD Transit Police. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to him. Do you have a PowerPoint or anything, or do you just want to speak to the people?
Nope, I think I'll just speak to the people if that's fine with you. I've got 20 minutes. Is that correct for this?
Yes.
So I will talk quickly. So if I'm talking too fast, you can slow me down. And hopefully I can provide some good information for you guys on our Transit Police Division. A lot of people, me included, at my prior law enforcement job, I had no idea that RTD had a Transit Police Division. So I can give some basic information on what your Transit Police Division can do, what our jurisdiction is, and we'll kind of go from there. I've also got some information to provide. A request was made to provide information on the ADA training that our officers receive. So I will go ahead and go into that as well. And then I will leave plenty of time for any questions that you guys may have. Whatever I'm talking about may spur on some questions, and I'll do my best to answer those. And if I don't have the answers to those today, I'll make sure I get those answers. So we'll roll with that.
Great. And Patrick, I'm not sure if you're in a place where you feel comfortable turning on your video or if you have the bandwidth, but since we don't have a PowerPoint, it might help.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I do not have a camera for my computer set up here at work. They never issued me one. So yeah, I was going to tell you that as well, and I'm glad you reminded me. So sorry about that.
No problem.
All right. So again, just to introduce myself, I'm Sergeant Patrick Meester. I'm the sergeant of the community outreach team for the RTD Transit Police Division. Just a little background information on myself. I've been with RTD for about 1.5 years. I came via way of the Arvada Police Department. So I was a officer there for 24 years. I retired from that agency to take a supervisor position over here at RTD and get in on the ground as building the police agency. RTD is a very young police agency. They've only been around since 2003. So we're kind of in the foundation building stages of the police division. Okay. At this time, we're a police division. We are not a police department yet. That will be changing here shortly. So that's a little bit about myself. So let's talk about the RTD Transit Police Division jurisdiction. So RTD is the 7th largest transit system in the United States. So we cover a lot of ground. We cover over 2,400 square miles. We enforce laws in 8 counties and 44 cities. So we have a ton of jurisdiction that we have to deal with. And just so you know, our jurisdiction is any RTD property, and that would include a vehicle, so on a bus, on any of our light rail trains, any of our commuter rail trains, platforms, park and rides, any property that is RTD related, we have jurisdiction to enforce criminal statutes at those locations. Just a couple, as a side note, we're a very busy organization. In 2021, we received more than 66,000 calls for service, and that is the Transit Police Division and also our security folks. So our officers are running nightly call to call. So super busy organization, and we do handle a lot of serious calls, and our guys are just running unbelievably. So we are a dual, a hybrid security policing model. So your RTD Transit Police Division officers, we are post-certified, fully functioning police officers. Right now, we have 14 road officers. So for the entire organization, for the 2,400 square miles, we have 14 officers, 4 sergeants, 1 lieutenant, and then right now we have an interim chief. We just are in the process of hiring a new police chief. So some of the information I'm providing, the new chief will make some of those determinations on if our deployment stays the same. But right now we have deployed into 4 distinct teams. We have a bus team. The bus team is made up of 4 officers, 2 of which are corporals. The bus team, which your area will probably deal with the most, they deal with any issues that are on any buses, any park and rides, and or any bus stops. And I would again note that a bus stop is RTD property. So any bus stop throughout Colorado, we have jurisdiction to enforce and deal with things at those locations. So we have a bus team. The next is our rail team. the rail teams mostly they're going to deal with your commuter rail and your light rail and a lot of the platform issues and park and rides. They also have 4 officers, 2 of which are corporals. And again, our corporals are basically our training officers as well, and they will act as a supervisor if a sergeant is not working. The next team is our mental health and homeless outreach team. This team is made up of about 6 officers, 2 of which are corporal. And what's really nice about this team is we have 3 mental health co-responders. There are clinicians, and they ride with 3 officers, and they will handle all mental health calls that come out. Our officers are there for safety purposes only. They will make sure that the scene is safe, there's no weapons, and that the person can actually speak with the co-responder. And then the entire situation is turned over to the co-responder. The co-responder can place people on mental health holds as well as police. We do that as well. But they can also get immediate walk-in help for people, get them into clinics, and provide resources to folks that are in mental crisis at that specific time. Also, with this team, we have a homeless outreach coordinator. He is Alton Reynolds. So he oftentimes is coming out to our property and contacting our homeless folks to try to get them, number one, resources. And he will also bring care packages, food, toiletries, personal care items to try to help these people right there at that time and try to help them get into the help that they need. So that's how our PD is broken up right now. It's more of a proactive and problem-oriented solving strategy. It's not reactive like we had been doing prior to the redeployment. The problem with our old deployment was we have 2,400 square miles, so it was just so much area to attack, we couldn't get to everything. So instead of just reactive things, we actively look at what issues we're having, and then it's the supervisor's job to put together the game plan to go proactively attack these issues. And I forgot to mention the last team. It's the community engagement team, which is me. So right now I'm basically, I'm the sergeant of it, but I don't have anybody that works underneath me. So at this point, I'm basically a community resource officer for RTD, but it's been fun for me to put on a different hat and have a different role and kind of explore this part of it instead of the standard issue patrol stuff that I've done for my whole career. So that's how we are deployed right now. One example of a success that I would like to note is our operators have issues with they're continually being assaulted by suspects, criminals, people that are misbehaving. So our bus team, and it's mostly bus operators. So our bus team has been hitting those problems, developed a plan to attack that, and every month will print out and send out the operator assaults that have taken place. And this last month, we had the smallest number of assaults that had taken place on operators since I've been here. And a lot of that is due to the fact that our rail guys and also our bus guys are patrolling the park and rides, patrolling all these areas, but they're also now required to actually ride the buses and ride the trains. So when I speak to our bus team guys, they advise that they're very bored when they ride the buses, because when they're on there, people will immediately get off that shouldn't be on there. And if folks are looking to cause problems and they step on that bus, they see the officer sitting behind the operator and they immediately get off. So they're not having a lot of action or enforcement opportunities while they're on there because things aren't taking place in the first place. And that's a direct result. Their patrol is a direct result of our operator assaults going way down for this month. We hope to keep that up and see the assaults go down, but we've seen a really good outcome with that. So that's a little bit about our PD. Just so you know, in the future, right now we have the 14 officers. Within the next 3 years, we have the budget to hire 160 police officers. In the future, the dual security method will be going away. Our poor security guys, they deal with a lot of things out in the system that sworn police officers need to be dealing with, not security folks. Our security officers, they are not police officers. We do not train with them. We don't train them at all. They're their own entity. So they probably don't have the training that's necessary to be able to deal with what they're dealing with out there. So eventually every single security officer that's on the trains, that's at Union Station that's on the platforms, they're going to be replaced with a sworn police officer. In order to do that, we're going to need to hire over 160 officers. And in a peer review that was done, some of the largest transit agencies came out and did a peer review, and the 160 officers is probably not going to be enough. To do it the right way, we'll probably need to have over 400 officers. So that's where we're heading in the future. Short term is the 160 officers. In law enforcement, one of the main issues now is, of course, recruitment, hiring. It's very difficult to hire police officers right now. We're finding that to be the case for my agency, but also it's every police agency. I know that I worked for Arvada PD for over 24 years, and usually they would be down around 6 officers. Well, right now that agency is down over 40 officers, and within the last 2 years, they've had over 60 officers leave the agency for various reasons. A lot of them are leaving the state of Colorado to go work outside of the state and continue their law enforcement career there. One good thing with my agency is the year and a half that I've been here, we have not had one officer leave to go work for another agency. So hiring, recruitment, but retention. Retention is huge for law enforcement. And right now we at this agency are right on the money as far as retaining our officers. And we're doing the best we can to hire the best officers we can to help affect changes in our transit system to make sure that everything is super safe. So that's a little bit about my transit police agency and where we're headed. Let's move along to our ADA training. So again, I am not the ADA instructor, so I cannot train you on this at this time. I would like to speak a little bit about how the training that our officers receive. So
Hey, Patrick,
yes.
there's a question. Bobby has a question before you get started on the ADA training.
No, thanks so much. And yeah, any question, yeah, just stop me and I'll answer the best I can, then I'll move on.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. So I recently started riding just once a week to downtown Denver. And I haven't noticed, and I probably should have, are there numbers on there where a rider can call if they feel any kind of threatened? And yeah. And then also do the police officers or the officers that work with you, do they just ride in pairs or do they ride separate? Because there was a time where I was on and I felt really secure that there was 3 officers at the same time on with me. I wish they would have got off with me where I needed to get off, but
yep.
do they always ride in pairs or do they ever ride individually?
Yeah, so we'll go. So let's talk about your first question, and thanks for bringing this up. So I'm talking quick and trying to get a lot covered here, so I spaced over it. So we have what's called a Transit Watch app, and this is something that we're really pushing. You can download it if you just will type in RTD Transit Watch app. You can download that, and this is a really good tool. You may be in a situation where you're seeing some criminal activity take place right in front of you, and you don't feel comfortable calling 911 because you're afraid they're going to know you're calling the police and you want more of a low profile response. So if you download the Transit Watch app, you can start to text the information and enter it into that app. It goes directly to our dispatch. Just so you know, we have 2 dispatches. We have a dispatch that handles all of the calls south of I-70. Your dispatch would be the dispatch that handles calls all the way north of I-70. This is eventually going to change where they're going to consolidate our dispatches into one, which is something that we need to do. So I will give you that non-emergency dispatch phone number. But yeah, if you enter the information on the Transit Watch app, it goes directly to our dispatch. At that point, they will dispatch our transit officers out, but they're also going to dispatch your district officers. So say, for example, you're at the Boulder Transit Center and you're seeing a fight taking place in the lobby and you need to, call this in. They're also going to send the Boulder Police Department out there as well. They're going to send both of us. A lot of times we might be down in Lone Tree dealing with something. And if there's a problem in Boulder, of course, Boulder's going to get there quicker than us. We're going to respond, but they're also going to send out your district officers. And a good example of how this worked, and it's tragic, but on our 15L, there was a stabbing on a bus, and the Transit Watch app was used to notify our dispatch, and this response time was super quick because that app was used, and DPD as well as transit got on super quick. We're able to get the victim en route to the hospital for medical care, and the suspect was taken into custody and jailed on various charges. So response times with the Transit Watch app do increase. One of my jobs is to get that message out there. I will table a lot of events when we go out there, and on our Transit Watch app sign, there's a QR code where you can just download the app. So I would recommend downloading the Transit Watch app. And then the other thing is, if you have a minute, pen and paper, I can give you both dispatch numbers to our transit dispatch if you'd like those.
Okay, I'm in Denver, so anything south of I-70 is great for me.
Perfect. So it is 303-299-2911.
Perfect.
And that is our Transit Police Communications Center 1, just so you know. So, and honestly, if you just called that number and you were up north, they will get the information over to our dispatch too. So absolutely.
Okay, great.
So that's
Thank
the
you
first,
so much.
You bet. The second part of your question would be, so our officers, they are usually going to be riding in pairs because we like it's for cover purposes, and they're going to double up. Now, if you see one officer on the bus, there's probably going to be another officer that's going to be trailing in a transit police vehicle, because of course we have police vehicles and we respond everywhere. So that may be done to have the vehicle in case there is a crime that takes place. They're going to need to have their tickets. They need to have their paperwork to be able to handle it then and there. So that's why there would be a vehicle. If for some reason the person that was misbehaving poorly gets out of control, we're going to need to have a vehicle there to be able to take them into custody and put them away in the back of the car and get them secured. So you may have two officers on there, but there's probably a third with a vehicle somewhere in the area pretty close where they can get there kind of quick. You're never going to have a transit officer riding by themselves because it's not safe and it's unsound. So, and again, I can't stress enough that the more officers we can hire, we can just expand the whole program out. Because, like, right now our bus team has 4 officers. When they're working a shift, you've got 4 officers for over 2,400 square miles. So they are hitting the high crime areas and the high activity routes. That's what the sergeant's job is, to know what's taking place and then deploy their officers to those hot spots. But the more manpower that we're able to hire and get trained, this is going to be it'll be a much better police response. And hopefully we can deter a lot of this activity before it even takes place, which we're already seeing that on the limited amount of patrols that we're able to do right now. So I hope that answers those questions.
That does. Thank you very much.
You bet. Are there any other questions before I move on?
No, I just want to say that I put the URL for the Transit Watch app and then the phone numbers in the chat. So if anybody wants to copy those or download that.
Perfect. And just again, this goes without saying, you've got our numbers, but again, if it's a dire emergency, 911 is still going to be the best way that you can go, because 911 will go straight to your district police department exactly where you're located at. That's just kind of the way it works. And again, we know under stress, our brain's going to go back to what it knows, and what it knows is doing 911. You may all of a sudden forget the number that I gave you. So again, if it's a dire emergency, please dial 911, because that's going to be the best police response that you can get.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
And then as far as the ADA training portion, the reason why this came up is because the Association for Community Living had a client who has a disability and is often perceived as being drunk because the way that he staggers or his delayed speech. So we were just kind of wondering, like in general, we know that people with disabilities are more likely to be perceived as being a threat due to their disability, and people not understanding that they have a disability. So that's kind of why I asked if you could speak a little bit to your ADA training.
Yep. So what really addresses this issue more than our ADA training is going to be our CIT training. So every single officer, once they're out of training, they are required to attend a 40-hour CIT training. What CIT training does is it teaches officers how to interact and deal with people that are, number one, in mental health crisis and or folks that have disabilities. It's a long class. It's taught by really good instructors. They give the officers techniques on how to speak to folks that are in crisis and how to deal with people that are in crisis that is less adversarial and less puts that person more at ease. And again, officer safety is a big part of this as well. We're never going to sacrifice officer safety for this. So they teach them multiple techniques throughout the week, and each day there's role playing. So they will bring in folks that are very good at role playing, people in mental health crisis, schizophrenic, folks that have disabilities, and the officers are able to interact with those folks and put the techniques that they learned in the classroom portion of it. They're able to put those into practice and actually get some hands-on skills, so they don't just have to apply these things in the field when they're first out. They get pretty detailed scenario-based training to be able to reinforce the techniques that they've learned. And you know, I've been to the class myself, and it's about as real as it gets, even more so than when you're in the field, because the actors that come in and portray these folks do a really good job with it. So you have a really good idea of the training and how to actually execute it before you go into the field with it. At Arvada, I never had any CIT training. I just had to work my way through it. And that's not the best way to train our officers. We need to give them some skills to be able to help folks that are in crisis, so things don't escalate to a point where it's, you know, a tragedy happens. So our CIT training is huge for our officers. That's one way that they are able to perform really well. Going back to your issue with the poor gentleman that is perceived to be intoxicated. One thing that all of our officers, a lot of them are laterals. So past DUI training, as law enforcement, we're very adept at figuring out if somebody's intoxicated or not. On a nightly basis, our officers are encountering folks that are under the influence of alcohol and or drugs. So they're extensively trained on being able to differentiate if somebody is intoxicated, if somebody is high on narcotics, or if they have a disability. They're really good at figuring that out, and then directing their police activities accordingly to that. So the CIT training and just their overall experience on dealing with intoxicated folks and knowing exactly if you're intoxicated or not, that really helps our officers make the decisions on how they're going to interact with the public. Again, with RTD, we are very we like to push understanding and education before just citing folks for things and charging folks with crimes. Little different mindset at this agency as opposed to my old agency, where enforcement was the big deal. We still do have that enforcement capability and arm as well, and we absolutely are using it on a nightly basis. But education and patience with our officers, I think, is there more than some of the other police agencies, quite frankly, that you're going to be getting. And a lot of that comes from the training that our officers are put through. Just so you know, POST requires police departments to train their officers 24 hours in a year. Our officers last year went through 130 hours of training. And that's not all just firearms and defensive tactics and emergency driving. It's our ADA training. It's anti-bias policing. It's de-escalation training. We do a ton of de-escalation training here, more at this agency than I did with the Arvada Police Department. So a lot of that training really helps us deal with ADA folks. As far as the ADA training that the RTD provides to us, it is a 4-hour block. It's done every year. It's done in class, and the actual training is completed by our Division of Civil Rights and our attorneys. So they come in. It's a 4-hour block. It's a PowerPoint presentation. They will go over the history of ADA. They give a lot of background information on it, and then the last training that I attended, there was a lot of focus on what a reasonable modification for ADA folks are. And then they gave us a ton of examples: stroller modification, mask modification. For example, if an ADA person has an inability to wear a mask, maybe they have to wear a shield. Maybe it's something where, you know, it causes them stress or causes problems having to wear the mask, knowing how to have a reasonable modification for that. Snow and ice removal, bus stop instructions, non-designated stops, fare handling, and then eating and drinking on a bus and taking medications. Maybe there needs to be a modification if a person has a disability and they have got to be able to eat and drink and or take their medications. So they went into a lot of examples of that for us. They also talked a little bit about what a reasonable modification is not. And some of those examples that they advised were if it constitutes a fundamental alteration of service, can't have that. If it's a threat to health or safety of others, of course, we can't have that. If it's not needed by the requester to use the service, again, that's going to be a problem. And then if it creates an undue financial and admin burden, that's going to be a little bit of a problem. So those are some of the highlights that the trainer had stressed. Each time we do a training, they're going to go over different parts of the Americans with Disabilities Act, and we'll discuss different parts of it. I will say that in our code of conduct, it's the RTD code of conduct. It's basically the do's and don'ts, how you have to behave on RTD vehicles and property. There is a section, the ADA and reasonable modification section on there. We do briefing trainings with all of our officers where they're required to read this information, have clear understanding of it, and periodically we will have them go over all of this information. To include, there is an enforcement section on there where it says how we will enforce ADA violations. So that's some of the trainings that we do to actually go through the class. If you would be interested, I could coordinate with one of the attorneys to come and actually speak in greater depth about the specific training that that RTD provides. But yeah, it's given to our officers once a year, and I believe it's given to all of our operators. All RTD employees are receiving this training once a year. Theirs may be a little bit different because ours is more geared towards the policing part of it and what our officers need to know and how they need to conduct themselves. But I thought when I went through the class, it was very thorough, and it answered a lot of questions that I had. So that is some of the ADA training that we do. And again, if you're interested in having a more in-depth look at it, I can certainly make that happen and schedule one of the instructors to speak more about it.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We'll follow up. Does anybody have any questions for Patrick before we move on? Thank you very much for coming today and providing the information. I know that there's a lot of dynamic changes going on.
Absolutely. And thanks for having me today. I really appreciate the invite. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I did put Patrick's contact information in the chat. So if you need to reach out to him to schedule a presentation or to find out more information on anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. I know that some people were contacting me regards to security at Park and Rides. And so Patrick definitely explained to me that like not only are Park and Rides covered by the RTD transit police, they're also covered by the local jurisdiction police as well. And then a lot of them have security cameras. So I don't know if there's this is the last opportunity for questions before we move on to the next presentation. Okay, well, thank you again, and I really appreciate it. We'll be in touch.
Very good. Thank you so much. Be safe.
You too. Okay, so the next presentation we have is Matthew Helfand with DRCOG, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about the Human Services Transportation Set Aside. Matthew, do you need to share your screen?
Yes, I will share my screen in just a second. Thank you, Angel. I also have Travis Noon here with me, who administers the program, and he'd be able to answer a lot more of the detailed questions if they happen to arise. So I'm going to share my screen now and get the presentation up. It might just take a second. There. Why is it freezing?
We can see the presentation.
Oh, there we go.
Yep, there we go. Good
There
job.
we go. Now it's in presentation mode. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Matthew Helfand, Senior Transportation Planner at DRCOG. And as I said, I have Travis Noon here with me as well. And we're going to briefly discuss the Human Service Transportation TIP Set Aside. So a while back, the DRCOG board approved $1 million a year or $4 million over the course of a transportation improvement program in the MPO area for funding to augment the other two funding sources of Older Americans Act and FTA 5310. and enhancing mobility of older adults, individuals with disabilities, people with low income, veterans, and other similar cohorts in enhancing their mobility in the community. And so we have federal funding set aside, but it's swapped for state FASTER funding, which gives it more flexibility for transit projects. But also the other key is that it is allowed to be used as match for other federal funds like FDA 5310 or Older Americans Act. And the benefit to that is that it ends up, you can apply for both, and it reduces the local match requirement. And one issue that we've had in the past in the Denver region is that the 5310 program has been undersubscribed because of agencies, nonprofits not being able to afford that match. Now, 5310 is a little bit different in Boulder because there's small urbanized areas throughout the county, but it's not part of the large urbanized area for which DRCOG is the designated recipient. And so it still works the same way. It's just you're not using DRCOG directed FDA 5310 funds to match the set aside funds, and instead you're going through CDOT for that. Eligible projects are include all of the projects that are typically eligible in the FTA 5310 program, but it's made more flexible to provide better coverage of serving different populations that also have needs in addition to older adults and individuals with disabilities. So operations and maintenance, small infrastructure projects. We had our first one, actually it was in 5310, but this funding source, the HST, can also fund it. Recently, where we funded some curb cuts and sidewalk improvements in Englewood. And so that was a really exciting project because we got to fund a new type of project that helps the mobility of persons in that community get to and use transit. Then the typical stuff, rolling stock, software, other capital purchases, mobility management, travel training, which helps people learn how to use transit so that they can remain independent. And I'll just show these are just lists of the projects that we've funded with the HST since we began it. And so there are some from Boulder County, as you can see, and here's some more. And some more onto that. And we can certainly make this available so that everyone, if you can see the projects that have been funded. And just wanted to highlight one project in particular in Boulder County. Boulder County has been funding the free ride, the Ride Free Lafayette program, which has specifically, while it's open to the general public, it's specifically targeted the populations that we're targeting through marketing and through the designation of its service area, and it's been very successful. And the next call for projects is, here's the timeline. So there'll be fall 2022 call for projects that will be between July 1st of 2023 and June 30th of 2024. And happy to take any questions you may have.
I do have a question about when the next call will be due, because I believe last year it was due in January, like the first week in January. Is that going to be the case this time as well?
Travis is best to answer that question.
Thanks, Matthew. I don't have a specific date, but likely will be the case. So it'll be released around the same time. So it was late October, early November, and then we'll be open for, 8 to 10 weeks.
Okay, wonderful. And I do think that for, I wanted to check with the mountain region. Do you think that the mountain region of Boulder County would be an eligible project? Like if we had an on-demand service in the mountains?
I think the entirety of Boulder County is in the MPO, and so it's covers the whole MPO boundary.
Okay, wonderful. Well, you can definitely expect an application for that from us, I believe. And I don't know if anybody else. Jen wants to know how specifically you're going to get the word out about the call for projects. Is it through the website or some other way?
So it does get posted to our website. We typically also post it to social media channels. We also will send out emails to prior and potential subrecipients in the region, letting them know that it's open and when deadlines are as it gets opened up.
Okay.
And I'd like to, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to add, if anyone who's interested in applying is more than welcome to contact I or Travis, just to run ideas by us, just to talk things through. We're here as a resource. So feel free to contact us with any questions, concerns, ideas that you might have.
Great, thank you. Any other questions for Matthew or Travis? I guess I do have one other question. Have you seen any bike programming for either older adults or low-income folks through this process? Like any projects that would expand bike access?
We haven't had any requests for it. Not that I recall anyway.
But things like Earn a Bike would be eligible. Is that correct? I remember I asked you that specifically, but.
Yeah, no, I do remember. And I believe, as long as it's tailored, the projects really have to be derived from our human service transportation plan. So if there's, if it can be derived from that plan, Matthew's probably more of the expert of all what's in that plan, but then it would be an eligible service.
Okay, sounds good.
It really has to be tailored toward enhancing the mobility of the populations I talked about. So that's one of the keys. But if you have any questions, we can always go through things and help you out.
Well, it doesn't look like we have any other questions, but thank you so much for giving this presentation. I think that this is the last presentation on local and regional funding that we've scheduled for this year. So if anybody has any other suggestions on local or regional funding sources that they would like us to highlight, please let us know. And we will try to get them on the calendar. Thank you, Travis and Matthew. Okay, moving on to the next section is the outreach inventory. So I saw that some of you had taken the social media inventory, but this is really going to be, we're still waiting on a couple more people to respond to this. This is really going to be a way for us to coordinate not only at the social media outreach like we did before with our social media inventory, but also know which newsletters we are available for transportation content, and then also event inventory. So this will help us really understand who's really moving towards in-person events, who's continuing to adopt and adapt the virtual events with COVID. I don't know if anybody wants to speak or ask questions on this. Okay, we'll move on. So the next thing that we have is the 10th anniversary celebration. So those of you who attended our meeting probably about 6 months ago know that on the 10th of October, so 10/10 is we're going to celebrate our 10th anniversary as a local coordinating council. So today we're going to get some input on how do we have any local celebrities or any driver recognition suggestions that we have. So I'm going to go ahead and put a Menti up. Let me go ahead and stop sharing here. This will be the Mentimeter that we're going to use. So here's the link for it that you can click on. Okay, and I'm going to share it one more time. So if you want to use your cell phone, you can just use the QR reader. You can go to www.menti.com and enter 26332213, or you can just click on that link that I put in the chat. And I see that 4 people have clicked on the heart. So once we get a little bit closer to that, we'll move to the next slide. So we have 9 people so far. Let me check to see. I can't see how many people are in the meeting. Chloe, can you see how many people are in the meeting?
Can you reshare the link again, Angel? For some reason, when I open it, it might be happening it doesn't pop anything up. It's just the heart, which might be why you're getting it.
I think that it's just the interface. So I'll put it up here one more time. So we'll move forward to the question after we get a couple more people doing the heart.
I think it is just the heart to join if you click that heart, and it looks like there's 26 people in the meeting.
Thanks, Chloe. So we have about 13 people who have clicked the heart, and then we'll move on. We just have 2 questions and they're pretty much open. Thanks. Zoe went to menti.com, entered the code, and then clicked the heart. You can also scan the QR code. I'll wait for a couple more seconds for people to be able to join. Okay, we have about 18. So I think that's pretty good right now. So the first question really is about local celebrities. So this was something when we did our brainstorming session that we talked about who should be emceeing the ceremony. So there was a desire to have it be a little bit more fun and not like a normal meeting. So one of the suggestions was invite somebody who's a local celebrity to be the MC for the 10th anniversary celebration. So do you all have any ideas on who a local celebrity is that we should invite? And if you can't, add it to the pedestrian dignity host. Yeah, that would be great. And if you can also add it in the chat too, if you can't. I think people are tired of my voice they hear me every month. And I'm not sure who Ryan Van Duzer is. Does somebody want to speak to that?
Yeah.
He's up here twice.
I put that in, and Ryan was like a Peace Corps volunteer who rode his bike back to Boulder from Guatemala. He doesn't own a car, so he's just very personable. We had him speak to a BTC event, very uplifting. So just, fun and dedicated to not driving.
Yeah, that's great. So it looks like he's up here 3 times. It looks like Frank Bruno's up here a couple of times.
Bring back Lena too. That'd be fun.
Lena Katke, she's the old executive director of VIA. Does anybody want to speak to, I'm not even sure how Nick's last name, is it Shorji?
Short J. Normally how he'll say that. I'm spacing a little bit on what radio he's on, but like I've heard so many people over the years go, oh, he's the weather dude, or I don't know, he does something. I've heard many people just get really excited hearing about him, like, no way, he's one of your trainers. So I just thought to pop it in there.
That's great. So he's a trainer for the drivers, or is he like
Yes.
okay, wonderful. Okay, and then does anybody want to speak to Debbie Shear?
I suggested her, she used to be the educational coordinator for Planned Parenthood of the Rockies. So she's very social justice minded, but she's completely changed career and now does EMCing to help fundraise for nonprofits and private organizations for those who are social justice minded. And she is hysterical. So she may not be quite a local celebrity, but she is a for hire, very professional, very funny EMC to consider.
That's great. Any other, I guess if we're going to cast the net a little bit broader, does anybody have any like semi-local or regional or state celebrities that we should consider? I see 10 people have responded. Does anybody else have any ideas? They just want to unmute themselves and speak? Nathaniel Miner, he's the CPR reporter. And then there's also Charles T. Brown, who is the Arrested Mobility podcast host, who's really been focusing on transit equity or transportation equity. Okay. Any last comments, questions on the local celebrity or the MC for the event? Okay. Well, the next question that we're going to go to is about how do we acknowledge drivers? Oh, I think that this might have already been open, but people started providing cash, gift cards. Is there a way that we can acknowledge them in the ceremony? I forget, somebody had spoke about paper plate awards before. Does somebody want to speak to that a little bit more?
Yeah, I can. It's something that I used to do like at summer camp where people would get fun paper plate awards and you design them on paper plates and make them like kind of artistic and funny. And one can be like, has a great attitude or like sunshine or something like that. And it's a little more fun and personal for people.
Yeah, that's great. Looks like there's a couple of people who writers share their stories about the drivers. Does anybody want to speak to that? There's also the videos showing off how awesome the drivers are. I noticed that Via has been doing some of that. Any other comments, questions on how to acknowledge drivers during the ceremony? Okay. Okay, well, we'll go ahead and take these into consideration. And Jessica, she's going to be the project manager for the 10th anniversary celebration. So she'll be reaching out to people individually. So she wants to do just some interviews of people who have been long-standing members, speak to the stories, positive snaps. That's great. So if you have any ideas, then just reach out to Jessica or me, and then we'll be able to incorporate them into the ceremony. Go ahead and exit out of this. Okay, so the next concept, and I don't know, Chloe, would you talk a little bit about the lunch and learns and kind of what we're looking forward to doing?
Yeah, definitely. So the lunch and learns happen during the week at lunch, and they're basically for providers or nonprofit organizations who are looking to learn more about a specific organization, a transit provider, any sort of transportation information throughout the community. And the last one that we did that I talked about a bit earlier was with Access-a-Ride with RTD. So that's an example of one of the services that's offered to community members that people might not know a lot about. It's really focused towards making sure that all of our organizations that we partner with have enough information about the different services that are offered in the county. So yeah, we're looking to host more lunch and learns. It's been a little bit slow with COVID, but we thought the Access-a-Ride Lunch and Learn went really well, and people had really positive feedback about learning a different transit provider and how to help serve their clients easier. And I know I talked to Zoe a little bit via email about doing one in the future with VIA, but we were curious about what different lunch and learns we should host in the future and different transit providers or programs that are in the county that you would like to learn more about. So yeah, we'd love to hear about what different programs or transit providers that you'd like to learn more about during your lunch break. Awesome, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looks like, and also you can use, it's the next question on Mentimeter, so you can advance to the next question if you don't want to unmute yourself and speak up.
I see community cycles, cultivate and faith in action, which would all be really great organizations to highlight and hear a little bit more about what they do day to day and the different programs they offer. And yeah, we'll definitely make sure to be in touch with those organizations to see if they'd be open to doing a lunch and learn. I think those are all really great ideas.
Anybody else? Are you having a hard time seeing it on Menti? Or do we close out of Menti?
Looks like I see a couple more on here. I see bicycle Longmont and municipal mobility effort. I'm not totally sure what municipal mobility effort is. Is that a bunch of municipalities? Whoever said that, if you want to speak a little bit more on that, that'd be great.
I just want to check, Chloe, are you seeing the what lunch and learns should we host?
Yep.
Okay. For some reason, my Zoom is showing my third screen, so I didn't know if you were seeing
No
me.
problem. Yeah, it looks like it's up there.
So it looks like 3 people have provided comments.
Feel free to put them in the chat as well. I see ride-free programs. I think that's also a really great idea to go over the different ride-free programs that the county offers, especially Ride-Free Lafayette. I think that would be a really good lunch and learn to host. And I'm not sure if the person who said municipal mobility effort is still on the call, but if you want to talk a little bit more about that, that would be great. Okay, a couple more came up. It looks like youth transportation, which would be wonderful. So Cami, we might be reaching out to you to do just an overview of youth transportation in the county. And I see car share, which would be another really great resource to do a lunch and learn on. I know we've helped some people sign up for car share, and it definitely takes a little bit to actually get signed up for the program. So I think that would be a great one to do at some point, and we can contact Peter from car share. And then I also see VIA. VIA would be also great. We've talked to Zoe a little bit about possibly doing one in October. So we'll be in touch about that once we start planning that as well. Then I see county operated transit, which also would be great, kind of similar to the ride-free programs as well with Ride-Free Lafayette. That's a Boulder County operated service. So definitely would be a good idea to do those, as well as the HESI shuttle and different sorts of shuttles that we do as well. And I see Cami in the chat said transit training options. Cami, do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. Sorry, for some reason I couldn't get it to enter in Mentimeter once I made one entry. I was just thinking, I know there's a number of options going around, even though they might all be partnering with Dr. Mack, but I think for the different groups and the tailoring that's going on and who might be able to help prefer two places and what groups are eligible for them. So I think there's just a number of transit training efforts going on. It might be nice to talk about them all.
Definitely. Yeah. Thank you so much, Cami. I think that's a great idea. Just do kind of like a more broad overview of the different options, I think would be great.
Thank you. I think this is a lot of good ideas. Let me go ahead and pull up our PowerPoint here. Our next meeting is, our next meeting is on September 12th, and we do have some wonderful presentations. So I know I'll have to go back and look at the list, but I know we're going to get an update on Colorado 42's planning efforts that the city of Louisville is doing, the school travel study. So Darcy Kitching is going to be presenting the results of that. And then we're going to try to do Lafayette's master plan, transportation master plan. So there's a couple others that I might be forgetting, but we have a pretty good agenda next month. But I just want to thank you all for attending today. And don't hesitate to reach out if you have ideas on who we should be hosting, getting presentations from, if there's any new members that you think that we should be inviting. I just want to thank you so much for taking part today. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Angel.